if you could call that young lady that stepped off the airplane that day, would you tell her? What would you tell her?
What would I tell her? Well, there's definitely one thing I would tell her is do not take a perceived weakness as a barrier for your future success. Learn how to turn a lemon to a lemonade. And here's a quick example. You probably noticed, I speak English with accent. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, it really bothers me because, well, sometimes it's because people will react to it, ask me to repeat myself, and that makes me nervous. And also people will always ask, when they hear me talk, they will always ask me where I came from. And it's never enough if I say Colorado or whatever. It has to go back to the very town in China where I came from. And I just feel, so all those reactions made me feel like I do not belong. I need to do better. And I also had, one time in my career, I also had someone told me that he would not recommend me to the next promotion because he didn't think my English was good enough. And so all those things really bothers me. And I spend money. I hired coaches, voice coaches. I hired English teachers, just try to get rid of this accent, right? I spend all this effort because I feel like this is a barrier, I need to overcome this. And then later I read this article which says, if you start learning another language after age 13, you will never get rid of your accent, because by age 13, the way how you speak, the muscles, your tongues, the movement is pretty set by your hometown. So when you learn a new language after age 13, you can master that language. You're just never going to get rid of your accent. Oh, I was destroyed by that article. So I feel like all this effort I spend to try to get rid of it is really just in vain. So I will always be treated as someone who doesn't belong here. I will always be treated as someone who's not smart enough because of it, right? So, but then one day, so I joined the Toastmaster. One of the things I tried to get rid of my accent to become a better speaker was to join a Toastmaster. So one day when I was at the Toastmasters, I was going to give a speech, and one of my evaluators said, "Well, what are you working on?" I said, "The accent. I want to get rid of the accent. Help me with my enunciation." So he said to me, "Why are you so worried about your accent?" He said that if you just enunciate the words and speak a little slower, he said, "I understand you perfectly fine." He said, especially given the topic I was going to talk about that day was on immigration. He said, your accent give you the credibility, when you talk about the specific subjects like immigration. So he said, why are you so worried about your accent? Don't worry about that. It's not important. It's your strength. It gives you the credibility. So focus on other things. And that really opened a whole new door for me. From that day on, I do not worry about my accent at all.
Good.
And so
very good.
If I can see my younger self, I can talk to my younger self again. I would tell her, save your money, buy some, buy a share of Amazon, and rather than focus on trying to get rid of your accent. That's not really important.
Good. That is great. Thank you so much for sharing that. The Riderflex podcast features entrepreneurs, business executives, and the stories behind how they got there, as well as daily tips on career advice and job interviews. Our show can be heard just about anywhere these days, but you can visit riderflex.com and click on the podcast page to hear all the previous episodes and learn more about the recruiting and consulting services we provide. Contact us at the email address info@riderflex.com or 888-964-5876. Thanks so much for listening, and if you enjoy our show, please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like the episodes.